نفسي فلم ترى.
9 minutes past 7. Welcome back to Sabahul Muslim and Radio Islam International. We are now coming towards the end of October. I mean, we're 2/3 into the month. They say November is the last serious month of the year. December, everything starts to wind down from early December. Kids are no longer at school. Everyone is starting to talk about leave and whatever else, and things really start to wind down. Now, one of the phenomenon that you deal with at about this time of the year is what they called year-end burnout. It manifests itself in fatigue. People feel overworked. They feel stressed. There's physical, there's emotional, there's psychological exhaustion. And that results then in a feeling of helplessness, in a feeling of not being motivated, of being hopeless. And this is a sign now that, you know what, something's not right. Some people feel it means I need to slow down. I need to just check my life. What am I neglecting? Others feel, yeah, even though I need to slow down, I can't. There's so much that I need to finish before the end of the year. Now, there's a Dr. Sahir Jamati, who's a consultant psychologist, and he says, he decodes this term fatigue. He says, fatigue is a common term used to define a state of the overall feeling of tiredness or lack of energy. And he says this is not the same as being drowsy or sleepy. You had a long day, it's late now, you're drowsy, you're sleepy. That's one thing. The fatigue is a different thing. That's a state of the overall feeling of tiredness or lack of energy. Even in the morning, you feel like that, mid morning, afternoon. It's not only at the end of the day because, you had a long day or because you didn't sleep well at night. That's why you're feeling drowsy. He says that at the end of the year, people sometimes develop a rush. You need to wrap up a lot of work, these looming deadlines. It's not only work, it's only family issues, getting everything in order for your end of the year umrah or family holiday, or maybe many functions take place at the end of the year, weddings, walimas. And people, as a result, are left feeling tired, irritable, overwhelmed. Now, it's not unusual to struggle, right, at this time of the year, physically and mentally. Tiredness, irritability, all of that is something which is not unusual. But then it affects your joy or your satisfaction during the last couple of months of the year, and that's not healthy. So another expert says most of us are trying to get the most of our day, and we push ourselves beyond our limits to improve productivity. But it's important not to ignore this persistent tiredness. Like general stress has consequences, this year-end stress and year-end fatigue could also have consequences. If you leave it unchecked, it can result in anxiety, in boredom, in irritability, in poor concentration, in insomnia. The burnout that people feel during November and December is a real phenomenon. So we ask you a question this morning. Do you suffer from year-end burnout? What are your symptoms? And what are some of the coping tactics that you implement in order to get through this time of the year? It's a bit of a stressful period of the year. It's hectic. You meet people around this time of the year. They say, yeah, just too busy, just too much to get done. And as you go deeper into November, they start talking. Anything that needs to happen now, it must happen in January. I got a lot of other things to get through. So, do you also suffer with this phenomenon, year-end burnout? Um, what are your symptoms? How does it affect you? And how are you managing it? And what are your thoughts in that regard? Coming up in a bit, we have our hadith for the morning. We talk about the walima. Who is invited, who should be invited, who should not be invited, what's the reason for inviting. Then we talk to Dr. Yu Hunt. They are part of a group of people who call themselves lightning chasers. They study lightning. Well, the rain's now arriving, alhamdulillah. There's going to be much more lightning, and we talk to him in this regard. After 7:30, Maulana Wajah joins us in studio, gives us the first word. We continue with the tafsir of Surah Banu Israel. Today we're talking about contracts and promises. After 8, Marcus Lowe joins us on the line with regards to the question, can health be fixed without fixing politics? Is the deteriorating healthcare system a direct result of deterioration in politics? We will continue our discussion on eradication of poverty. That's the theme for this week. We continue looking at causes of poverty, a continuation of the discussion from yesterday. And then towards the end of the program, we talk about Africa's role in the global economy with Aisha Kaji. African leaders earlier this week met in Washington with the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. And they voiced their concerns that African countries are marginalized when it comes to global financial policies. So this is what you can look forward to this morning between now and 9 o'clock in this, the second and the third hour of the program. Whatever's on your mind in terms of the various issues that we are discussing, you can WhatsApp us, or whatever's on your mind in terms of what we may not be touching on, but you feel it needs to be brought to the attention of our listeners, then you can WhatsApp us as well on 072 786 1548. Just go on 7:15.
Hadith Discussions on Sabahul Muslim with Maulana Sulaimaan Ravat.
وعنه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال: شر الطعام طعام الوليمة يمنعها من يأتيها ويدعى إليها من يأباها ومن لم يجب الدعوة فقد عصى الله ورسوله. رواه مسلم. وفي رواية في الصحيحين عن أبي هريرة من قوله: بئس الطعام طعام الوليمة يدعى إليها الأغنياء ويترك الفقراء. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu narrates that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, the worst type of food is that of walima, in which those who need to attend are prevented from joining in, and those who refuse to attend are invited to it. One who does not accept an invitation has disobeyed Allah and His Messenger. A narration of Bukhari and Muslim has an addition: the feast of walima is evil, or that feast of walima is evil in which the rich are invited while the poor are left out. Now, if your family are rich people, if your neighbors are rich, if your friends are rich, if your work colleagues are rich, it doesn't mean you don't invite them. This hadith is not saying don't invite rich people. What it's saying is don't exclude poor people and only invite rich people. So it ties up to the theme of this chapter, that you need to be kind, compassionate, considerate, accommodating of the vulnerable groups. Poor people, weak people, marginalized people. Functions which only focus on the affluent and the wealthy and the prominent, those are the functions then where extravagance will set in, wastage. Then you'll feel obliged to bring in forms of entertainment that appeal to the wealthy. The poor also have a right. The poor also have a right to be part of your functions and to be part of the joyous occasions. That's the first part. The second part about if you don't accept an invitation, that you have disobeyed Allah and His Rasul. In legal terms, it's mustahab. It's preferable that you accept an invitation. It's not compulsory. Yes, you can accept and say, I'm not available. I'm sorry, I can't make it. I graciously accept, but I can't make it. At least tell the person. We've got this bad habit that we don't respond. And nowadays, people have to pay per head to the cook and to the hall. And they have a set number of people, and the lists are tight with families growing. So they need to know whether you're coming or not. In the end, 20, 30 people don't pitch up in a function. They could have invited 20, 30 people, other people. So without a valid reason, you shouldn't just miss a function if you're invited. If everything is according to Sharia, if you're available, then attend. If you can't, some people are in a space like, for example, an imam or a prominent scholar. You're getting invitations every weekend. Sometimes you may be around, but you've got to just draw a line and say, well, I've got to spend some time with the family. I've got to rest. Those are all valid reasons, but accept it in principle and offer some du'as. May Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala grant us the understanding.
This is Sabah.